And the authors came back straight away with a clear set of answers to my questions and a compelling case that we don't actually need to reduce our meat consumption. I would have looked so bad. But no. Right, they came back with obfuscation, no agreement to talk about it, because they know, and I know, we all know that this is bull. Right, can we stop with this? Can we stop pretending? The Frederick Leroys and the AHDBs, can we just stop? None of you will actually defend the view that we don't need to reduce overall meat consumption in developed countries. Okay, we've got an update on my beef with the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board on LinkedIn. This is the original post from Head of Nutrition and Health Kate Arthur. I'm proud to introduce the new AHDB. Proud to introduce a lot of changes in 6 days. Scientific report, Balancing Health and Sustainability, the Role of Red Meat in a Healthy Diet. This is the name of the offending report. If you come across this, Balancing Health and Sustainability by AHDB, this is the report in question. Presenting a bold, science-backed perspective on the role of meat in our diets and the environment. This report challenges the current narrative and highlights why reducing meat isn't the simple solution for better health or sustainable planet. So it's interesting that even in their communications about it, they can't help but revealing like their purpose and what they've set out to do here challenges the current narrative. So basically they set out to tell a story that meat's kind of not that bad. So they're kind of giving the game away straight away here. Now, I commented on this, offering £100 to have a 30-minute conversation recorded with any of the people involved in the report. The person who pasted this, the author of the report, the two co-authors of the report, and the marketing director, Liam Byrne, who has interacted the most with me on this. Liam Byrne said, "A valuable and timely report. Congratulations to you and the team, Kate Arthur, Rachel Madley Davis, with special thanks to nutritionist Emma Williams for writing such a comprehensive main report, and to Laura Winus, very clear and insightful summary, blah, 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 blah." I've commented, your comments trying to prop up this nonsense are the most anemic part of this. And after having had some back and forth with Liam on another thread, which we'll look at in a moment, Liam replied, "Noted, I'll beef it up next time." This is eventually his report to kind of troll and be hilarious and epic. I've said, "No need, your non-responses are giving me great content," and confirming to my colleagues that you definitely don't have any actual defence for the report. So now we can have fun with it. And I've linked my second of my 2 videos that I've made about this. This will be the third. And our friends checking us out 3 minutes ago. Profile viewed by Liam Byrne. There's some other good comments on Liam Byrne's post about this. How green is red meat? Blah, blah, blah. Same rubbish. This is where Glenn Burrows agreed to have a conversation with me, which I very much look forward to. He said, "I look forward to an engaging and open-minded discussion." So do I, Glenn. So do I. I'm laughing a little bit because this guy's being quite brave here, but he's being real polite now. Now that I'm trying to get a date in for the debate, he's being real polite. He's actually now said that he agrees with my points here. He's agreed with everything in advance of the debate. He says that we need to reduce meat consumption, that factory farming's bad, that the UK needs to eat less meat overall. So I guess we're going to talk about something else now. Oh, here he is. I won't read that now. Well, here's Liam Byrne's reply eventually. Again, this is AHDB's first official reply after the bank holiday weekend, so this is the reply that we were told to wait for. Chris Bryant, thank you for your comments. The questions you've raised are addressed in the report. However, I'll answer each in turn. Let's see if my questions are addressed either in the report or in Liam's answers here. Again, my questions are whether overall UK meat consumption going up or down would be conducive to better health and environmental outcomes. I'm asking about overall UK meat consumption. Let's see if he answers about overall UK meat consumption. Question 1. Whilst you've cited 4% for anemia, NDNS data shows 49% of teenage girls have low iron intakes. That doesn't sound like overall meat consumption. That sounds like it's some obfuscation about a subpopulation, and you're not going to talk about overall meat consumption. 49% of teenage girls have low iron intakes, of which 9% have iron deficiency anemia. You might notice the problem with this straight away. He says you've cited 4%, but it's actually 49%, of which 9%. Bro, that's 4%. This is just one example of the nuance we've spoken about, says Liam. I put nuance, I called them out saying nuance. This was a whole part of their strategy, I'm telling you. That's essential to any discussion. So, yeah, whatever. We agree the UK is facing a well-documented challenge with overweight and obesity. However, implying red meat is the major cause of obesity is not the right approach. This has been another thing that they are missing me on. I have not said red meat is the major cause of obesity. I have not said red meat causes obesity. I've just asked whether the 64% who are overweight or obese would benefit from eating a bit less of it. Right, presumably that 64% is eating more than 64% of all of the calories. Presume they're eating even more than their fair share of meat, given that meat eaters are more likely to be overweight or obese than vegetarians. But they want to answer about implying red meat is the major cause of obesity. Not relevant again. Obesity, and again, obfuscation. Here we go. This is a lovely long sentence just to take it into the weeds and not answer my points about overall meat consumption. Obesity is the outcome of many factors, including exercise, energy intake, low levels of physical activity, genetics, and wider socioeconomic and behavioural factors. I mean, come on. Should they eat less red meat or more red meat if they're obese? I didn't ask about genetics and socioeconomic factors. All else equal, should they eat more or less red meat if they're obese? This is why they will never talk to me, by the way. It would be embarrassing for them if they did. They are just going to obfuscate. They are not going to answer my questions. They are right not to talk to me. That would be that would be £100 well spent for me. The report clearly states the focus should be on improving overall blah blah blah. Okay, yeah, this part's not relevant. It says if you have any further questions, please now contact AHDB at info@ahdb.org.uk. They would love me to stop talking about this in public and instead bury it in their emails. Well, I'm sure they'd be really responsive to my emails and really honest in their engagement with my criticism by email, by the way. I said, this is so bad. 49% of teenage girls, of which 9%. What's another way of saying 9% to 49%? Could it be 4%? Implying red meat is the major cause. I have not implied that, I said. My question is whether 64% who are overweight or obese should eat less meat. As expected, a complete nothing response from AHDB. Again, why was it so easy to predict that you would not answer my questions at all? My offer of £100 for half an hour of your time stands. I know nobody there will want to defend this report in a live discussion. I will be making more content exposing this misinformation. By the way, since you are having your people deep dive into my research, I'll take any non-response on that as AHDB endorsing our model. Commented again, I couldn't help myself, I commented again. I was on the train, I was fired up and firing off comments. I absolutely will not direct any further questions or comments to your email account. I think I'll keep making my comments and asking your team questions in public. The only way to demonstrate to the public and policymakers that this report is misleading is to show that its authors cannot defend it. I followed AHDB, so I'll keep an eye out for any webinars or other engagements on this report, and I think I'll take a closer look at your other reports too. Cheers. Okay, so he's followed up again. You're right to highlight that not all food is produced equally. That is true for any food group, not just meat. It's good that you recognise that well-managed livestock systems can deliver benefits, improve blah blah blah. This is a silly little trick that'll get you nowhere. The report doesn't suggest all systems do this, but that some systems will be better than others. Therefore, a sustainable global food system doesn't necessarily require less red meat, but rather has a focus on improving the sustainability of production. Okay, so there's a positive claim from the AHDB that we can tuck into. A sustainable global food system doesn't necessarily require less red meat. I wonder what the scientific community will think about this claim. This is now a positive claim being made by AHDB. Finally, we've got them to say something about overall red meat consumption. A sustainable global food system doesn't necessarily require less red meat. I wonder what the scientific community will have to say about that. This is not in the report, by the way. This is just you saying this now. If you have any further questions, again, you can contact AHDB directly by emailing info@ahdb.org.uk. They are so desperate for me to stop talking about this in public. They are so desperate for me to shut up and stop saying this report is a load of rubbish. No, I don't think I will. I don't think I will email it to you. I think I'll keep talking about it in public, actually. Thanks, though. Well, the next part's kind of cut off because we've got one half of the conversation with the lead author of the report, who has now blocked me. Emma Williams of AHDB has refused my offer of £100 for half an hour of her time to defend her report, and she has now blocked me instead. So what does that tell you about AHDB's confidence in this report that they've released? Its author would rather block me than spend half an hour defending it for £100. So here I am just repeating my questions to the author. Again, we've got one half of the conversation because I'm now blocked. Not that interesting to read one half of the conversation, I guess. Well, we had a bit more back and forth over on my post. I screenshotted his silly thing about 49%, 9%. Lindbergh commented, "Incorrect. You've misinterpreted what's been said. 49% of teenage girls have low iron intakes, of which 9% have iron deficiency anemia." As I'll point out in a moment, he's miswritten what's been said. The remaining 40% have low iron status. In other words, nearly 1 in 10 girls aged 11 to 18 in the UK have hemoglobin and plasma ferritin levels below WHO thresholds. I love the unnecessary insertion of scientific terms here, by the way. He could just said low iron levels. Right, he could just said anemia, but no, they've got hemoglobin and plasma ferritin levels below WHO thresholds. This is part of the strategy of unnecessary obfuscation, making it unclear, trying to create confusion. Look, he's literally inserting pointlessly long words to describe anemia. He could just said anemia. We're talking about anemia. Are you saying this isn't important or significant versus obesity? I said, well, let's look at the numbers. 64% of the whole population is obese. You say 9% of teenage girls are anemic, so what percentage of the whole population is that? Also note that this guy won't debate me for £100. And then I replied again. I said, yes, take the £100 to discuss it live. No response. Shock. Damn, viewing me again. Leave me alone, Liam. Here's me posting yesterday's video. And then here's me posting again in the afternoon about my future bestie, Frederick Leroy here, the lead author of the Dublin Declaration, who is also not willing to debate me. This guy won't actually even acknowledge me. I said nobody from AHDB will take £100 to defend their new report in a conversation with me. Still, it could be worse, at least they've replied. Frederick Leroy is still pending. This guy makes AHDB look brave and intellectually honest. Tagged again, no response again, shock. This guy's terrified to talk to me. He's top of my list. So we can go ahead and add these new people. What's her name? Emma Williams. HDB. Added May 2025. This is my list of people from the meat industry who will not debate me. So Emma Williams is blocked. Rachel Madeley is ignoring still. And put Liam Byrne obfuscating. Okay, we're up to 9 meat industry representatives who will not talk to me now. Let's see who else we can add to this list. I'm pleased to add the AHDB crew next to the Dublin Declaration crew on my list of meat industry figures who won't debate. They are completely incapable of answering very simple questions. They're completely incapable of defending this report, and they would rather block me than take £100 to discuss the report for 30 minutes. So that tells you just how confident AHDB is in this new report that they've come out with. Let's think about what this implies for a moment, okay? It's important after these things go down to actually think about what are the implications of this. First of all, AHDB are completely incapable of giving a coherent response to my criticism. Literally would rather block me than take £100 to defend their report for 30 minutes. Secondly, this guy, Liam Byrne, their head of marketing, assured me that they're going to have their research team look at some of my research in great detail, so no doubt they'll be trying to poke holes in it. The good news is if they come back and point out some minor trivial issue that doesn't actually change the overall argument or the overall conclusion of the paper, we can pretty much take that to mean that AHDB endorses the report and agrees with the view that we need to reduce UK meat consumption. So I'll look forward to hearing from them on that. And of course, if I don't hear from them, I will assume that they looked at the report and couldn't find anything worth criticising, which again, great news. The third thing to notice here is that these meat industry quote-unquote scientists are complete paper tigers. The AHDB, which is funded by levies on British farmers, have put out this long report. They've all posted about how much work went into it and how long it is, 175 pages. And it's been completely savaged in 3 days by one guy. Something tells me that they're not going to want to share this publicly too much going forward. Unless they all block me, which also it seems like a possibility. I wonder how much this report cost British farmers. Like how many thousands of pounds of levies went into producing this report, which is now completely and totally irrelevant. So look, what am I doing here? I get it, right? I'm coming across quite confrontational, maybe even a little bit mean. But look at the bigger picture here. Look at what's actually going on. These pro-meat organisations are cynically producing misleading research in order to sell more meat. If other scientists don't call this out, it will go unchecked. And frankly, they've been doing far too much of this for far too long. And we've been letting them get away with it by just sitting on the sidelines. We're very nice in the animal movement. We're very agreeable, very polite. But look at the bigger picture here, right? What is it in service of? Why would we be polite to people who are deliberately obfuscating in order to kill more animals for food? Was this AHDB report written in good faith? Was the Dublin Declaration written in good faith? No. They're cynical documents written by meat industry representatives and presented as science. Yeah, there was one other researcher in my comments, I won't name her. She pretty much said, obviously, this is written to sell more meat, but, that's their job, so can't you be chill? More or less. No, I can't be. Get another job. If you make yourself a mouthpiece for the meat industry and put your name to junk science in order to sell more meat, this is part of the deal now. The only mechanism for keeping these kind of reports anywhere near honest is critique by other people in similar roles who are capable of critiquing this work. And I'm sorry if I haven't been polite enough in my critique, but frankly, I've lost my patience with this deliberate obfuscation about meat reduction. Here's the other thing too, if I was wrong, you guys could make me look so bad. Imagine, right? Can you imagine if I had come in so hard against this report and the authors came back straight away with a clear set of answers to my questions and a compelling case that we don't actually need to reduce our meat consumption? I would have looked so bad. But no. Right, they came back with obfuscation, no agreement to talk about it, because they know, and I know, we all know that this is bullshit. Right, can we stop with this? Can we stop pretending? The Frederick Leroys and the AHDBs, can we just stop? None of you will actually defend the view that we don't need to reduce overall meat consumption in developed countries. You're being real loud about the minority cases where actually more meat could help with anemia and in agroecological systems and in the developing world. It's cheap tricks. Frankly, they've been at it for far too long. And we need to hold responsible the individuals who are putting their names to this stuff, because they are making themselves mouthpieces for the animal industry. And they're publishing deliberately misleading work in order to kill more animals for food. That is what's happening. This is part of an absolutely cynical and absolutely predictable trend of science washing of meat production and consumption. Right, bodies like AHDB, like the authors of the Dublin Declaration, they write these bullshit pieces which are designed to obfuscate and mislead and create uncertainty that they can then take to policymakers to protect their industry. They know exactly what they're doing. They're cynically highlighting cherry-picked data points to create a vibe that meat production's all fine and we don't need to do anything about it. That's why their tactics are so predictable. And that's why these people will never have a conversation with me where they can actually be held to the point and forced to answer the difficult questions about overall meat consumption. They know that their job is to obfuscate, and they know that if they talk to me, I will expose that. Their tactics are so predictable. They're appealing to some vague nuance. Go and read the 175-page report. It's pathetic. And by the way, it's totally predictable that this sort of thing would happen. It just happens with powerful, amoral industries. Right? It happened to pro-tobacco scientists in the 1950s. It's been happening with pro-fossil fuel scientists since at least the 1970s, and it's happening with pro-factory farming scientists. If you think about it for a moment, it would actually be shocking if this wasn't happening, right? Here are these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar factory farming companies. Are they investing any money in scientific research that is going to further the long-term interests of their industry and related PR efforts? Of course they are. They would be fools not to. Frankly, if you doubt this, you're kind of credulous. This is how the world works now. So this is my message to climate scientists, nutritionists, and advocates of common sense. Get into this conversation. The water's fine. These Frederick Leroys, these Pierre Ederers, they're total paper tigers. They're super comfortable writing their misleading papers and then talking about them on their little blogs or their creepy little podcasts. But if they actually get challenged by somebody who signals, I know what you're doing, they crumble immediately. And we need to see more scientists empowered to call this out more aggressively. We've all got to call it out, and we've got to support each other in doing this. Let's start using the hashtag, we know what you're doing, to start calling out this weak, red herring, bullshit meat industry science. We're living through the pro-factory farming scientists right now, and I'm inviting you to join me in speaking up against it, loudly and aggressively. God damn it. Aren't vegans supposed to be the weak ones? Where are all the strong red meat scientists who are going to come and dominate this cocky vegan? So far it's just been block, ignore, obfuscate. The Dublin Declaration have been smart enough to ignore me so far. Those AHDB guys gave me just enough to nibble on, and I'm sure that they regret it. But don't worry, I'm going to get to Frederick Leroy and the Dubliners, don't you worry.